There being a quorum of council, I will call the City Council regular meeting of May 10th, 2022 to order. The first up is public comment period. I'll recognize those individuals who have signed up to speak. Please remember when you come up to give your name and address to the clerk for the record, and each person will be limited to 3 minutes. City Attorney will be keeping the time. First up is Mr. Janacek. Bob, come on up.
Thank everyone. Bob Janacek, 513 Everett Street. And I'd like to say a few words about item 22 tonight on the agenda. That's the selection of the Citizens Appointment Committee. The position of a citizen on one of the committees is extremely important. They are appointed by you, and their responsibility is to aid in representing the ideas and concerns of all of us in Monroe. With that responsibility comes the expectation of proper and professional behavior in the public eye. I believe you would also agree with this tonight, based on what you're asking for earlier in the removal of Ms. James based on her behavior. I'd like to point out another case of inappropriate behavior by a current airport commission member and candidate who will be on tonight for the Public Safety Committee. Ms. Desio was recently requested to be on the committee by Mr. Gary Anderson, Freddie Gordon, and Julie Thompson.
It's someone's cell phone near a microphone or a speaker.
Yeah, it might be mine.
But it might be, well, it's typically some of the older phones will do that.
If I may continue, the United States court system has determined the following. Go back to where you came from is deemed by the United States federal government and court system to be discriminatory in the workplace. The Human Resources Handbook for the City of Monroe clearly states that the city will not tolerate or condone acts of harassment based on race, sex, religion, national origin, color, age, or disability. I'm sure the city attorney will be quick to point out that Ms. Desio's comment, move back to where he came from, was not in a workplace environment. However, the citizens of Monroe would argue, and council obviously agrees based on recent actions, that city representatives and officials should be held to an even higher standard than those for a city employee. They are, after all, by description, representing all of us. As you and everyone else knows, I've lived in Union County nearly as long as Ms. Desio has been alive, so one can only assume that her comment directed at me is because of my unusual Hungarian name. I'm a proud American. My family and I have dedicated our lives to the service of our nation and community. The insult to my Hungarian heritage is totally unacceptable by any city employee, especially those are appointed by you and are entrusted to represent us. My two questions to all of you is, can we afford to recommend someone who is obvious, has a public bias against those with a different nationality, and appointed to a committee that's designed to build trust on a committee? And additionally, should that same person be allowed to stay on a airport committee that's designed to bring outsiders into our city? If you approve the recommendation to appoint Ms. Desio to the Public Safety Committee and continue to sit on the airport committee after this behavior, you are essentially telling the citizens of Monroe that you're only concerned about and willing to spend taxpayer money to correct inappropriate behavior from certain people or ethnic groups. Is this the legacy that you want to leave in the city of Monroe? At some point, we do have to do the morally right thing. Thank you.
Mr. Janacek,
Yes, sir.
you ever thought about saying anything nice about Monroe?
It's funny you should bring that up because just, back 2016 about that thing, you said the exact same thing to my partner. Don't you have anything else nice to say? I have amazingly nice things to say about Monroe. We do.
You know,
So
it's really funny. We're 400% ahead in economic development, 400%.
Oh, I agree.
This city is in the best shape it's ever been, and yet you cannot say anything.
I say positive
Put it in
things
the
all the
gutter.
time. But the thing is, you can't see the positive with all the negative.
I don't see any negative.
Well, then that's the problem, I believe, right? How many homicides have you had on your street this year, sir? How many homicides have you had on your street this year?
It's not because our police department's not doing
You're
a good
absolutely
job.
right. These officers do astounding work. It's about policies that you and some other people have put in place for years, right? How many, for instance, code enforcement, right? Do you think we have a strong code enforcement?
Fellas, this is not really a time.
Well, he opened up, Mr. Mayor. So, and I respect your time. Like I said, my whole point of the thing is when we have Ms. James' behavior, which I think everyone agreed
Mayor,
based on spending the money.
Mr. Janacek has gone way past the time.
But
I think
you-
you've already instructed him that this is not a dialogue.
Mr.
But
Majid,
it's
this is the mayor's
It's
meeting.
Mr. Shah Khan. You don't refer to me as Mr. Majid because That assumes we have a familiarity we don't.
Right, so, and again, I think it goes back to the point, I wouldn't say go back to where you're from. I don't expect someone else, based on your name, someone else representing the city to tell me to go back where I'm from based on my name.
Thank you, Bob.
Okay, so like I said, the city does amazing things. I do volunteer work for the city. I'm spending tons of time for a lot of projects that you're unaware of with the city. So I agree. So the point is, you need to do the right thing.
Thank you, Bob. Dennis Craycroft.
Thank you all. My name is Dennis Craycraft. I own Backstage at 100 North Main Street. I've had that business here. We'll be celebrating our 7th anniversary July 1st. And what I bring to a question more than anything else, I've lived in Monroe for 20 years. I live just outside the city limits. I own a business here. And I wonder, and have asked people, why a business owner in Monroe, though he doesn't live in the city of Monroe, cannot participate in the election to select the officials, all of you. We don't have a say in that. We live by what you, as a body, do, and I will say that I think what's going on is great. I love it, and I've seen it grow really rapidly. It's really getting good. But I would like to be able to participate, and other than moving to Monroe, I don't have a way to do that. And I know there's a lot of business owners in Monroe who also have no say in the council, the people that regulate their business, because they live outside of Monroe and they came here because it's a excellent opportunity as a small business owner to open a retail operation here or any kind of business here that I can see going on. And that's all I really wanted to bring up is that anywhere in the future, or is that something that can be regulated or changed?
Well, to avoid dialogue, Dennis, it's pretty much one man, one vote. and that's pretty much across the entire country. So it's not something unique to Monroe.
Right.
It's that's the way our government system of government works. So,
Oh, okay.
but
I didn't
there
know
are-
that part.
There are, meetings downtown, and you and Judy are very active in that, and we appreciate that.
Well, we appreciate being here. Thank you for having us, and the welcome we got when we got here. Thank you.
Okay, now, next up is public hearings. First off is a request to table a public hearing schedule for today to consider annexing. I'm sorry? Yeah. And Doug Britt's going to
Yes.
finish up today. Thank you, Doug.
This is a request to consider table in the public hearing to be consider a annexation and zoning text amendment request for conditional district Cedar Meadows. The public hearings were originally scheduled for tonight's meeting. However, the applicant has requested to push the hearings to the June 14th city council meeting to allow additional time to address comments by the planning board. Staff is requesting city council will table the public hearing to June 14th meeting to consider this item and a water and sewer development agreement for the project as well.
Motion to table the public hearing until June 14th, 2022.
Councilmember Kazai, could I ask that you amend your motion to include with advertising? That is a request
With advertising.
to be
No
advertised.
problem.
Okay.
The seconder agrees. Thank you.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by raising your hand, please. Motion carries. Thank you, Doug. The next is a request on 29.206.
This is a request to consider table in public hearing to consider annexation and zoning map and text amendment request for conditional district Waxaw Landing Phase 2. The public hearings were originally scheduled for tonight's meeting. However, the applicant has requested push the public hearings to June 14th city council meeting to allow additional time to address comments provided by the planning board. Staff is requesting city council table the hearing to June 14th meeting to consider this item and a water and sewer development agreement for the project as well.
I'll make a motion to table the public hearing until June 14th, 2022 with advertising.
Second.
Motion, do we have a second?
Councilmember Kazai seconded it,
Oh,
sir.
I'm sorry. Got a motion and a second. All in favor signify by raising your hand, please. Motion carries. Thank you, Doug. The next on the agenda is the sale of a speculative building number 4 and 14.37 acres. And Rachel Holzman will present that. Rachel?
Mayor Holloway, council members, and the interim city manager, Bourne. I am pleased to present for public hearing the request to convey ownership of the Monroe Speculative Building Number 4 and approximately 14.37 acres in the Monroe Corporate Center to Dymax Corporation, previously known as Project Southeast, for $5 million. Per the North Carolina General Statute 158-7.1, cities can build speculative buildings to sell to prospective companies for economic development. The city of Monroe has built 4 speculative buildings to date. The spec building number 4 is 109,000 square feet and resides on 14.37 acres of land within the Monroe Corporate Center. Dymax, as mentioned in a previous public hearing, is considering expanding in Monroe and has made an offer to purchase the Monroe spec building number 4. If this sounds familiar, it should, being that this public hearing is to establish a new purchase and sale agreement, further referred to as PSA, with Dymax. The council previously approved a PSA on March 7th, but due to conditions out of the company's control, the contract has expired. The purchase of the building is contingent upon receiving incentives from the city of Monroe, Union County, and the state of North Carolina. Unfortunately, North Carolina is still in the process of evaluating incentives, and due to that being a condition of sale, we miss a closing date in the previously approved PSA. In this agreement, the closing is scheduled to occur on or around May 31st, 2022. If Monroe is selected and Dymax closes on the building, they anticipate spending approximately $42 million in capital investment that would include the purchase of the building, its upfit, and new equipment over the next 5 years. Dymax could create nearly 200 new full-time jobs in Monroe. With respect to this conveyance, Dymax Corporation has met all the requirements of North Carolina General Statute 158-7.1 and is eligible to purchase the Monroe Spec Building Number 4 and the land in which it is located. The city attorney and assistant attorney have reviewed the purchase and sale agreement. The members of the Monroe Union County Economic Development Board of Advisors are unanimously in favor of the sale. Therefore, the Monroe Union County Economic Development Board of Advisors and staff recommend that the council agree to convey the Monroe Spec Building Number 4 and the 14.37 acres of land for the total consideration of $5 million. Finally, I ask council to authorize the mayor to sign all the documents related to this sale. Mr. Joseph Bonasar, General Counsel of Dymax Corporation, is available to answer any questions that the council may have. Thank you.
Any questions for Counselor or for Rachel?
The only thing that's confusing about it to me are the state incentives.
Yes, sir.
So the reason we're back here tonight is because they weren't granted earlier.
Correct.
Have they been granted?
They should be finalized on May
They're scheduled to meet on May
24th.
24th, behind closed doors, and
Right.
my understanding is that but-for test, so that we have to
That's fine.
get that set before we can
Yeah.
finally close on this property.
So the new closing would be on or around May 31st. It was previously April 25th.
Councilmember Gordon, it's not that there's an issue with the incentives, it's just the process has taken longer than everyone
Correct.
had hoped.
Sadly, not the only thing that's been postponed.
That's true.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution approving the sale.
Councilmember Keziah, this is, the mayor
Not too
does
quick.
need to give you just
Yeah.
a little quicker.
This
He
is
needs to make sure the public hearing part's dealt with, but after that, you can do all you want.
Yeah, this is a public hearing, and there are no persons signed up to speak, so now I'll close the public hearing and move to take action.
Okay, I now make my motion to adopt resolution approving the sale of land in Spec Building 4, approve the purchase and sale agreement, and authorize the mayor to execute any and all necessary documents.
I second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by raising your hand, please. Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Motion to adopt resolution to award the incentive agreement and approve incentive agreement.
Second it.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
There's actually no incentive, it's just this resolution.
Yeah.
You've done everything, there's no incentive
Okay.
agreement, because you've actually already approved that at the prior meeting, so, unless you want to do it again.
No, but I would like to welcome you guys
glad to
to
have
our
you.
city. We look forward to having you in our business community.
Thank you very much. We're happy to be here.
And we hope the state will move along as we're expecting.
Thank you very much for your presence tonight. Next item is a Level 2 Economic Development Incentive Grant to First Choice Class. And Ron, if you would make that presentation, please.
Mayor Holloway, council members, Interim Manager Bourne, it's my pleasure to bring before you tonight an Economic Development Incentive Grant request by First Choice Glass, otherwise referred to as Project Skylight 2. First Choice Glass is a manufacturer of architectural window systems used in multi-story office buildings. In fact, many of the more prominent new buildings in uptown Charlotte have First Choice Glass designed and installed window systems. The company was founded in 2005 here in Monroe and has operated out of its current facility on Westwood Industrial Drive for the past 17 years. They employ 65 full-time positions as well as numerous subcontractors. The business is growing at a rapid pace and they have simply outgrown their current location. First Choice Glass began conversations with our office in early 2022 about the potential investment of $8 million that would include a new 50,000 square foot manufacturing and distribution facility on approximately 8 acres on Highway 200 near Stafford Street Extension. It's right across from the James River John Deere dealership. This new plant will allow First Choice Glass to meet rapidly growing demand for its products. Again, the company is considering an $8 million investment. If Monroe is the selected location, construction would begin third quarter of this year with occupancy targeted by mid-2023. The hiring of approximately 10 additional people would begin shortly thereafter at an average rate of $22 per hour. The company indicated that incentives are a very important factor for the project, and the company is considering other locations in nearby counties and across the border in South Carolina. Tonight, we're requesting your consideration of a Level 2 Economic Development Incentive Grant in an amount not to exceed $152,000 to be paid over 5 years beginning in fiscal year 2025, based upon the Union County Tax Office's appraised value each year on the company's anticipated investment of $8 million. Based on this investment and holding all other factors constant, including depreciation, the company would pay estimated ad valorem taxes on the new taxable investment of $201,000 over the same grant period. Of course, actual tax revenue to the city of Monroe will be based on the current tax rate applied to the assessed value of the investment each year after depreciation. We presented this project to the Monroe Union County Economic Development Board of Advisors at their April 12th, 2022 meeting, where they unanimously supported our bringing the project to you tonight for your consideration. As we do with all of our projects, we performed a cost-benefit analysis, and this project shows a 1.65 to 1 return over the first 5 years of the project or the grant period, and that increases to 5.68 to 1 return over the life of the project. We also presented this opportunity to the Union County Board of Commissioners last week at their May 2nd meeting, where a similar economic development grant was requested and approved. Therefore, the Monroe Union County Economic Development Board of Advisors and staff recommend the award of this Level 2 performance-based incentive grant to First Choice Glass in an amount not to exceed $152,000 in order to help secure this $8 million investment. At this time, I'd like to recognize Ms. Danielle Benfield, who is Business Relations Manager at First Choice Glass. And Danielle is available to answer any questions if you should so desire. So, thank you.
Council, do we have any questions for Danielle or Ron? Okay. This is a public hearing, and I will close the public hearing at this time and move to take action.
Just to verify, there was no one to speak for or against the,
That's correct, being no speakers.
and if there,
Motion to adopt resolution to award the incentive agreement and approve the incentive agreement.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by raising your right hand, please. Thank you very much. That motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Rhonda, next up is Project Millwork.
Bear with me here. I'm going to do my best. There. Okay. Again, me and technology, it's a dangerous combination. Mayor Holloway, Council, Interim Manager Bourne, thank you for the opportunity to update you on Project Millwork. We announced Project Millwork in September of 2021. Again, Project Millwork is the large-scale expansion of Windsor Window Company, or Windsor Window and Door Company. The project includes the construction of a brand-new 600,000 square foot manufacturing facility on 82 acres of land we sold to Windsor Windows in Expressway Commerce Park at Monroe. That is the land on Sutherland Avenue between Highway 200 and Stafford Street Extension on the north side of Sutherland. So there is a 16-inch water main that runs diagonally across the parcel. Again, I know it's a little bit hard to see, but basically there is a red hash line that runs diagonally across, and you'll see that it cuts right through the footprint of the proposed building. So obviously that water line has to be moved. So as is standard practice, when city-owned water and sewer infrastructure must be improved as part of a private sector construction project, we require the private developer to enter into an agreement with the city. On December 13th, 2021, City Council approved a developer agreement with Dame Brothers LLC. That is the developer for the Windsor Windows project. That developer agreement included a $554,000 infrastructure grant from the Golden Leaf Foundation that was intended to assist Windsor Windows with the overall cost involved in relocating that water line. The Golden Leaf grant required a lengthy public bidding process that would have added several weeks, probably close to 2.5 months of time to the project timeline. The company, after much consideration, decided to decline the Golden Leaf grant, and that has enabled them to actually go ahead and put a deposit down on the nearly 2,000 feet of 16-inch ductile iron pipe at current prices. As we all know, the cost of everything is encountering incredible inflation. That's especially true for construction materials. So in the final analysis, the company decided that they were better off declining the $500,000 grant in order to lock in current prices on the material. And that, at the end of the project, that gives them a couple, 3 months of production from that new facility that would have been delayed otherwise. So that's why they decided to say thank you, but no thank you to the grant. So therefore tonight, I ask that council approve an amended developer agreement between Dame Brothers LLC and the City of Monroe that eliminates the grant and shows that the developer is responsible for all costs related to relocating the water line. Related to that, request your approval of Budget Ordinance 2022-10, and then also authorize Interim City Manager Bourne to execute any and all necessary documents. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions regarding the process? Okay, hearing none, and there being no speakers, I will now close the public hearing and move to take action.
Motion to approve the amended development agreement, adopt the capital project budget ordinance, and authorize the interim city manager to execute any and all necessary documents.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by raising your hand, please.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much.
Council.
And now we'll ask Doug Brett to come back again, please, to discuss the rezoning of properties located along known as Sutton Place.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Doug Britt in the Planning Department. And tonight I'm presenting a zoning text amendment request and map amendment request by Seaman Whiteside Incorporated for the properties located along Sutton Place. The applicant is requesting a conditional district rezoning in order to develop a 81 lot, single-family attached townhome subdivision. The total area of the project is 10.02 acres. The subject property is outlined in blue. And then directly to the south here is the Metro Medical Office Park, the I call it the Food Line at Hilltop there, and this is Venus Street, Sutton Place, and this is the old Union County Bus Garage, as well as the City Monroe Street Division at this location. The subject properties are currently zoned conditional district Aaronfield at Sutton Place. The Aaronfield at Sutton Place was a apartment complex that was done in 2016 that authorized the development of a one building, 3-story for a total of 60 units, and it was age restricted for single, multifamily, senior living. And that project was never been developed over years. And so basically what's come before you now is basically an amendment of that conditional district. Because to remind council, basically when a conditional district is approved, they had to develop that or else go back through council again to amend the conditional district under the previous ordinance. All the adjacent properties to the east, west, north are all zoned under the new ordinance, medical district mixed use. And then properties to the north here, it looks white, but it's actually gray, is GI, general industrial. This is a site plan that shows the project. And again, this is Venus Street. They have a little bit of frontage on Venus Street and then Sutton Place. And if you've ever been on Sutton Place is only improved about to about the food line, and then the food line itself is a right-of-way, but it's not been never been built. And they're requesting access at this location for this portion of the townhomes, and then access on the other side of the stream here for this portion of the townhomes. The applicant requested to develop 81 single-family attached townhomes that will consist of 4.76 acres of open space, or 48%. The lot sizes range in this project from 1,540 square feet to a little over 1,900 square feet. Developers proposing the minimum width of the townhomes to be 20 feet wide for the lots. The front setbacks that's proposed to be 10 feet. The interior units will have obviously a 0-foot setback, and the side units will have a 5-foot setback, and the rear will be 20 feet. The developer is proposing to install 5-foot wide sidewalk on both sides of the streets, as well as a 5-foot sidewalk along this small portion of Venus Street, and a 5-foot sidewalk along the improved portion of Sutton Place. And Sutton Place, the improved portion stops at about this location right here. All the homes will have solid front yards prior to the issuance of the CO. Street trees will be provided throughout the development as well. The project does have a 50-foot buffer as required. And again, this is being processed under the previous ordinance, and the 50-foot buffer was required, so they do provide a 50-foot buffer to the adjacent properties. All streams located on the site have been provided with a 50-foot undisturbed buffer as required by the ordinance. The applicant will be required to provide stormwater management to treat stormwater runoff if the project is approved, and that would be reviewed and analyzed at the building permit stage of the process. This project does fall within the Rockrest Elementary, Monroe Middle, and Monroe High. It is not expected this development will have an adverse effect on enrollments at the schools. These are the proposed elevations. They all will have one-car garages. The exterior builds will consist of brick, fiber cement, and stucco. The developer proposing the front facades of all homes consist of at least 25% brick or stone. Vinyl is only proposed to be used for the eaves, soffits, trim, and windows. And the minimum heated square footage of the townhomes will be 1,432 square feet. The homes constructed on slab foundations will have a 4 courses of brick extended up the side on both the sides, the front and the rear. This is another example of it as well.
Do you have a side and rear elevation?
I do not.
Does the developer?
That shows an example of the masonry material, the brick or stone will be on the front. That will be at 25% of each one. All the units will have one-car garages. The driveways for the interior units will be able to accommodate 1 vehicle, and the driveways for the exterior units will be required accommodate 2 vehicles. Under the previous ordinance, multifamily projects were required to provide 1 parking space per bedroom and a half a space per unit. All these units will have 3 bedrooms, thus requiring by the ordinance-wise 284 parking spaces. This project, they are providing 214 parking spaces for the project. The new ordinance requires 2 spaces per unit, which equates to 162 spaces. And basically, comparing the new ordinance to the old ordinance, they kind of fall right in the middle between what would be required in the new versus what was required in the old. So they fall right in the middle. And I'll get to talk about the parking a little more down in the recommendations. This right here does not show the garages, but the point of the matter was it was showing the materials that they're proposing to use. Hardy plank siding, as well as the brick or stone, the architectural shingles, and a portion of having the standing seam metal roof. Hardy plank, as well as shake shingle will be different examples they could use on it too as well. This is the land development plan map. The land development plan indicates this area is within the medical district as well as the neighborhood mixed use district. The medical district does not permit multifamily residential. However, the neighborhood mixed use center does promote multifamily residential with no cap on density allowance. The density of this project is 8.48 units per acre. 8.08 units per acre. Therefore, the project is consistent with the future land use plan. The proposed project is a reasonable use in the public interest because of the multifamily will provide additional housing opportunities in proximity to large employers such as the hospital and nearby medical offices with additional services nearby such as shopping. This shows the notification map that we sent out. As far as for the adjoining property owner letters, we sent out approximately 48 letters, as well as posted the property at least 10 days prior to the meeting. This project was originally presented to the March 2nd Plan Board. The Plan Board tabled the matter because they had concerns about the parking, as well as staff did too, because under staff's original recommendation in Plan Board, staff did recommend approval with the condition that they add some additional parking. Now we'll go back to the site plan. And if you see, they added 15 parking spaces at this location for overflow, as well as 6 parking spaces at this location. But at the original plan board meeting, the plan board tabled it based on their concern about the parking. And so they came back at the April 2nd plan board meeting, or April 6th, with a modified site plan. The modifications they included was they added a 15-space parking lot to the southern portion of the site, as well as a 6-space overflow parking lot to the northern portion of the site. The total lot count was reduced from 85 lots to 81 lots because when they added additional parking lots, they lost a few lots, so that's why they lost 4 townhome sites. The density of the project, based on the reduction of lot size or lot count, was reduced from 8.48 to 8.08, as well as the open space modified slightly from 4.81 acres to 4.76. And then the additional thing they added, which staff had requested, was the sidewalk along Venus Street as well as Sutton Place. The planning board did, receive and review the revised site plan. The planning board had a 4-4 split vote. They originally made a motion to approve the project, and that vote was 4-4. Then they made a motion to deny the project, and it was voted 4-4. So it's coming forward with you tonight with no recommendation from the planning board. I'll be glad to answer your questions, and the applicant's here to answer any questions and make a presentation as well.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead. I'm just curious, maybe I missed out on something, and I heard in the first part of your presentation some square footages. Was that for the former, when you were in the 16 to 19, then I hear 14.
The square footage I gave you, the 1540 to the 1925, that was the lot size because they're townhomes, so they're small lots.
Okay,
And
lot
then,
size. Okay.
yeah, that was the lot size, but the townhome size being proposed is, minimum size is 1,432 square feet.
Yeah, I get that. Secondly, I'm sorry, I apologize.
Oh, that's fine.
My hearing's not great either. Are the rest of those parking spaces that you're touting, 200 and something, based on street parking?
No, based on in the garage or in the driveway. The 214 spaces I gave you, that includes the one space in the garage, and like I said, the interior units, their driveways can accommodate one space. The exterior units can accommodate 2 spaces in the driveway, plus the 21 overflow parking spaces. That's how I got to the 214 parking spaces they're providing, and that was with no on-street parking. And with the townhome project, it's hard to do on-street parking because the lots are so small. If you park on one side of the street, you're blocking somebody's driving on the other side of the street. So, and that's why staff did recommend the additional overflow parking because staff was concerned. And in planning board, the reason for their probably, and I went back and read through their minutes, their concern was they had 2 concerns. In the planning board, they write their concerns on the little cards. One concern was the lack of parking or potential lack of parking. And then the other one was the based on the elevations in the product. There was one member that didn't particularly care for the elevation of the product.
Okay, well then, furthermore, jog my memory on what law, rule, ordinance, or whatever we have to the on-street parking occurring when it is not allowed.
The on-street parking is allowed provided the road is not posted, and then if they do on-street parking, and I think this is the police ordinance, they're required to provide at least 16 feet of clearance for emergency services, being ambulances, fire, or police to be able to get through. That's a police ordinance that's enforced by the police.
So does our police department have the responsibility to police that? Or it's really overload on their part, I know.
Yes, there is a challenge, neighborhoods you have, yes.
The only thing that spooks me about it is my knowledge of riding around to something similar to this and seeing a tremendous amount of on-street parking. 3 bedrooms can bring in more people, more cars. That's a concern to me. And I worry about those streets being able to accommodate those emergency vehicles if people are parking on both sides of the street and in the...
And that's a valid concern. And that's why staff, to tell you what the magic number of parking spaces they'll need, I don't think anybody could predict that. I mean, to say that they're all 3-bedroom units that each bedroom has somebody that drives, probably won't, but some of them will. I mean, so this, and I'll say, this is proceeding under the old ordinance. And when I compared it, just comparison between the old ordinance parking requirement, because the old ordinance requires 1 space per bedroom plus a half a space per unit. And then when I compare that to the new code, just for comparison, and the difference between what they're providing and the currently and what they would be providing in the new is they fall nine spaces shy of falling right in the middle of it. But like I said, is it going to be enough all the time? Well, I don't know.
Well, I like the fact that it's townhomes, and I do have concern about that square footage and the bedroom and the parking. Now, that's just me personally. I don't speak for the council. I'm just making that comment. Nothing further.
Yes.
Does the developer have covenants and restrictions in place that will limit the number of rental units?
They can address that, but from a city standpoint, we can't restrict that. We can't restrict ownership as far as whether it's real or not. But that would be something that they
Developers here?
yes, they can address that question.
Okay.
So, thank you, Doug.
Okay, they have a short video first, and then they have a presentation, and the video is like a minute.
At Sutton Place, we'll integrate low-maintenance new housing and attractive elevations with hardy plank and masonry elements to provide a beautiful cityscape and pride of ownership for essential workers, our hometown heroes in the area. With a target market encompassing hospital, police, and school employees, we'll offer beautiful, energy-efficient housing within close proximity to the Atrium Hospital, a medical park, grocery stores, and easy access to Highway 74. Considering its current location behind the Hilltop Shopping Center, this development will be a vast improvement for the area, creating a tremendous work-live space for this part of the city. Not only that, it is far superior to the existing zoning of apartments today.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, city manager. My name is Richard Hake, and I'm part of the development team, and I appreciate you allowing us to come here to speak about our Sutton Place development. I'll be brief. I simply want to address some of the following points and then answer any questions any of you may have. We've spent about a year putting this together, working closely with the planning staff and Doug and his team, and we really appreciate everything he's done and the team has done. And so we just feel that this area behind the shopping center, our development would be a vast improvement of that area because we believe it's been neglected for a long time. And we think what we're going to be doing is we're going to be offering low maintenance, energy efficient new townhomes. They'll have attractive elevations. We're going to be using, as you saw earlier, fiber cement siding, stone and/or brick. And we're proposing ownership versus renting, which will be a real asset to the community. We're within walking distance to the Atrium Hospital, the adjacent medical park, and the grocery store. And I believe most of you have seen the quality of our Cottage Green development, which is not far from there. We just ask that you allow us the opportunity to build a first-class townhome neighborhood in this spot. And we thank you for your consideration and your time this evening. And I'm answering any questions any of you may have. Yes.
Do you have covenants and restrictions already?
We have not. We have not put the covenants and restrictions into place yet. But believe you me, we put in strong covenants and restrictions in our Cottage Green development and our other developments that we're doing in Charlotte and in here. And so we would not be opposed to having some kind of restriction that you're suggesting. It's just that we haven't discussed it with attorneys or anything on the legality of how that would come about to say, okay, we can only have 20% renters or 50% or whatever that is. But believe you me, we want to build a quality product, and we manage this as the declarant to the very end. And if we see cars parking on the street and things like this, we're the declarant to the very end. We can put up signs that say no parking. We can create these sort of things. Now, we have not had any issues with rentals in the past, and that's because this particular product is going to be in excess of $300,000 per townhome. Now, I know there's some investors out there, but most investors that I know aren't spending that kind of income to buy a bunch of rental houses. Now, if you had a homeowner that decided to upsize and buy a bigger home later on and they wanted to rent that townhouse out, that's something we couldn't prevent unless we put in place some kind of restrictions that would disallow a certain percentage. But we haven't given that any consideration, only because we haven't had a problem with it in the past.
And just an observation from being in the business, the up to $400,000 price point's well within the appetite of local investors buying rental properties. So I was just curious if you would set a percentage of the number of properties that you would allow to be rental, or more specifically, not owner-occupied.
Well, we're open to the idea. We're not saying no, we wouldn't do it. It's just that we haven't considered it.
And do you have any other elevations other than that front facade?
Well, that was an elevations that we had, the builder had given us to come up with. But, I mean, you know, we like to do a good quality product, change it up, have nice features. This is just a representation of what we're going to do. But our builder is the same one that's building out in Cottage Green, and you've seen how those look and the quality of that. So it's similar in quality and similar in elevation styles.
So that's not actually from, I'm sorry, Freddie, that's not actually from what we would see at Sutton Place. That's not a rendering from there.
That could be what you see, but it may not be. We may embellish it more with nicer features, nicer things like, I don't know, architectural features that you put on siding, and maybe some of the siding is vertical and some of it's horizontal, things like that. And changing it up with different types of stone and different types of brick, things like that. We want it to look good, and we want it to sell, and we want them to take down our lots, and we want a quality development. These are legacy things for Charles and all of us in what we're trying to do in our development process.
We hear that, and we want the same thing. In regards to the parking, I would feel more comfortable about it if we had something in writing that HOA or somebody at your company is going to be responsible for this policing of this, or create more parking, one of the two. So, not trying to be, listen, I agree with everything you said. I agree that this property is perfect for it. I like your concept. I'm not arguing that. But all I know is, sadly, more cars show up than our expectations or the ordinance states. And that concerns me. That probably, is the most, I don't want it to go rental. I know that once someone buys and they decide not to live there or use it as a financial investment, they can pretty much do what they want. But the parking does spook me. Now, all I'm saying is, are you willing to work with our planning department and assure us that that could not or would not be an issue?
We would, and we work with the police department too, and whatever we need. But I will tell you one thing: the distance between those driveways, and I'll let you speak to it, is not really conducive to a lot of cars even being on that street because you'd be blocking somebody's driveway.
Yeah, I
You know?
get that. That's another thing that spooks me about it. I don't mind telling you. I get that. I see that. You know, I'm just saying, when there's more people there than 3 people, 3 cars, where are they going? And more than likely, they're gonna take the shortest route, which is whatever that distance is between the 2 driveways out front. And then, you know, the second car shows up, and where does he go? It's just, I'm not trying to be argumentative, and I'm not against your project. I'm just concerned about it, and I think it's something that we need something in writing. I appreciate that you say you will do something, but you saying it and you doing it down the road sometimes is different.
And I appreciate your concern on that. I know we have other properties that we want to bring before this council in the future, and I certainly wouldn't want to stand up here with egg on my face, having not heard what you said before and asking you to do something different in the future. But however we can accomplish this,
That might be
we're open
something that our
to
attorney
getting
can
this
ask.
done, but I'm not sure how that.
Is that something that we can back to us?
I'll defer the planning department on that, because that's more their domain than ours.
Probably the only way to get more parking, and I was talking to the engineer, the only way to get more parking on the site right now.
It's to eliminate you. I get that.
Yeah, you probably have to lose a couple more units. I mean, because I think, because when they originally went to at 85, they had no overflow parking spaces. Then I suggested, because I was likewise, staff was concerned about the parking as well, and we suggested as a condition of approval that plan board consider approving it, and staff recommended approval just with the addition of some overflow parking lots, and plan board had that same concern, and that's why it came before you tonight with no recommendation, because there was still concern at plan board when it left plan board in April about the parking concern. And like I said, I mean, is every unit going to have 3 people driving in each bedroom? No, but will some? Yes. How many? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's no way to guess. And like y'all had said, though, as far as with the townhome project, there's going to be very limited room to park on the street. But that does prevent a problem, because, you know, I've seen it before where you'll have somebody that will park in front of, you know, somebody else's driveway, which you wouldn't think somebody would do that, but it does happen. And as far as the HOA stuff, whatever they would put in the HOA guidelines and rules about parking or rental, that would be strictly left to them to enforce, because like from a local government standpoint, we don't enforce any HOA guidelines whatsoever. But to address your concern about additional parking, at that point, staff would probably recommend you probably table it so they can modify it to figure out, because I don't think they can add any more additional parking without losing a unit or 2. And
Well, one thing we could do is put no parking signs that are decorative, that match our other street signs or something, and just not allow it. I mean, is that something that can be enforced by the city police department?
It is, but I think that you also have to compare the fact that on Saturday night, when everybody's home, we're gonna be the ones out dealing with it. Families on weekends, we're having people there. If you're having 3 bedrooms and you have a husband and wife and 2 kids, that's 4 cars. So I understand the concerns of these trailers here. This truck's a lot bigger in this day and age, getting fire department now. So that's something we need to discuss and work through.
Well, we're open to not allowing on-street parking. I mean, that's.
But it would need to be in your HOA and your CCRs.
We can-
Otherwise, that makes the police department your unpaid.
We can do that. We will.
And it's still, even if
I have a
it's $60,
question.
it's still gonna be, at the end of the day, if it's posted no parking, it's in their HOA, it's still gonna be a police issue the police enforce, no matter where it's written at. Police would have to enforce it.
I have,
You can fine with the HOA and the CCR.
I have a question. The pictures you showed, a great location, but the pictures you showed us is not the pictures that you're gonna be building. I got a real problem approving something that's not even gonna look like what we saw.
And one thing I'll say too, when staff presents projects to planning board and council, a lot of times they are a representation of what they're going to build, not exactly to the T what they're going to build.
So what happens is with conditional districts and if they're approved, what they would happen as far as when they get ready to start pulling building permits to go vertical, we ask them to submit a portfolio of what they're going to build out there, and we review that compared to what I showed you tonight, and it has to at least meet what I showed you tonight. Now, if it's more or better, that's fine, but it has to at least meet that criteria for that square footage and what it looks like on the outside. And granted, what it looks like on the outside is a judgment. And there's some when a developer may submit or a builder may submit it, and we look at what was approved, and we reject it because we don't think it's consistent. And it's not going to look exactly, but the kind of same theme, the kind of same tone that was set with the elevations that was presented to you guys. And if it doesn't meet that intent, we reject it and make them submit something else. So, but just to summarize, a lot of times what we show you might not necessarily be exactly what they're going to build, but just a representation of what they're going to do.
And that's a minimum, isn't it?
It'll be as good or better, right?
Correct.
I'd rather see some more parking spaces added to the actual interior part. Because I can tell you from experience, we put up no parking signs all day long, but if grandmother and grandpa come to visit, or whoever, on a Friday night, I mean, the police have to make a judgment call. And honestly, if I were them, I don't think I would have the heart to tow grandma's car because she's parked in, I'm just serious. I mean, if she's parked in a no parking zone, but she's there, she's staying there, she's visiting or staying there, or whoever comes to visit, brother, sister, friend, if it's midnight on a Saturday night, I can tell you right now, our police have a lot of things to do at midnight on a Saturday night, and no offense, but parking enforcement is just not a priority sometimes at midnight on a Saturday night because they have bigger things to do. And again, are they really going to go out there and demand that somebody get out of their bed at midnight and go move their car? I don't think so. I mean, I don't think they should. So I'm just saying I don't like the idea of not having more parking spaces. And I just think that if you put up the no parking signs, that creates a whole new problem because they got to park somewhere.
Do we have a suggestion on how many parking spaces would be needed additionally for this council to approve this development for us?
Sorry, I'd just like to say something. Taylor Pritchard, engineer for the project. So in working with staff, just to speak to the parking a little bit, in working with staff, I think originally we went through 5 or 6 iterations where we were showing 2-car driveways for each unit, and that really starts to impact the streetscape. So if we were to add more parking for those interior units and get that parking count up to where we're going to, or where it seems like y'all might be pushing, the streetscape really starts to get impacted there. And if we start adding more, parking lots, it's really not the development that we want to provide. That streetscape, that sense of place where people are going to be living, able to walk to the hospital, that quality of a product is what we really want to push. And as a current ordinance stands today of 2 spaces per unit, we're providing 52 spaces over that requirement. So that I just wanted to mention that there. With the for sale product, I think that really limits the chances that you are going to have all 3 bedrooms having a car, unless you have kids that are older. A for sale or for rent product typically gets a little more people in there. That's just from my point of view, but just wanted to add that in there.
I get that, but all I'm saying is that's got to be policed by somebody. And it's either got to be policed by the developer or the people that own the units. Onus has got to be on them. And if that's got to be some covenant, or, I don't even know what the legal term for it is, I always have to look to the attorney to give me vocabulary that I'm trying to communicate to you. All I'm saying is, somebody got to take responsibility for it. We expect it to be the developer or the owners. And we'd rather have it in writing than for you just to say, we will.
Well, we can include it in we can include whatever your recommendations, I can have that included in the declarations. I mean, these are not problems for us. We
Doug,
just as
is
soon
that-
do that. But normally, those declarations are written after everything is approved and we hire an attorney to write them and do all that. I don't know how we could,
If this in the covenants, city would be hands off on it, because we don't get involved in enforcement of the covenants. I mean, because for instance, if the city says you can have, chain link fence, and the covenants say you can't have chain, you can only need split rail, well, we don't get involved in covenants whatsoever, so you may say that, but I don't know how, I mean, we can't hold their feet to the fire because we don't review their covenants, we don't get involved in their covenants at all.
Or their declarations. And I think though, however, I think to point out what they've said, they intend to bring additional developments before you. So if it turns out they've not done this, it's something you can remember for a conditional district rezoning. Now, if they are developing as of right, that's one thing entirely, but if they're coming back for another conditional district, that's a legislative determination that you could decide that they failed to meet an obligation they said they would. You can handle that accordingly. Because Doug is correct, you can't enforce their covenants or their declarations.
Yep.
But you do have, as I've said to a committee of yours, you are the decision-making body. You may undertake a decision that says later on, we remembered that you did not keep your word. That's a powerful incentive for them, unless they wish to not eat lunch in this town again, or not.
Don't want to do anything else.
Don't want to build anything else.
Yeah.
well,
So what I understand is you're saying you're willing to put in the homeowners association guidelines, covenants, whatever, no street parking or no street parking after a certain time in the evening, is that
yes.
No street parking.
just no street?
No street parking, we can put that in there, and what happens is our management company that we retain to manage the process of our developments, there'll be complaints, and we address those complaints, and we can administer penalties and fines if they violate the covenants of our restrictions. I mean, we have some strong restrictions. I mean, this product, everything outside is going to be maintained, the yards and this. I even restrict the type of dogs that cannot. There's a certain breeds. I mean, we dive into this stuff pretty strong because these are reflections of us around the community, municipalities, that if we allow this particular product to look like that, and we're not concerned. But I hear your concerns, and I'm willing to put them into our HOA and CC&R documents. I don't.
Along with the parking, what percentage would you offer tonight as a max for the number of units that could be rental?
I don't know. I've never had that. I've never put that in, and we've never had a problem with it. But
I believe,
what would your suggestion be?
that I believe is beyond council's authority, but you could insist that they put it in their covenants.
Yeah, I'm just asking, it could be part of these CCRs and restrictions we're talking about.
I will need
You
to.
said you have it in other neighborhoods. What percentage do you have?
I've never had a restriction on rentals in any of the other neighborhoods, only because we've not had issues with these things in the past, but we will address it with our builder. We'll get with our team, and we'll come up with some kind of percentage or something that would be satisfactory. Do you have a recommendation on that? Because I've never done it, I'll be honest with you.
10% would be great.
10%, okay. All right, well, I will put 10%. I will hold it to no more. Are you saying no more than 10% rentals, or?
No more than 10%, otherwise 90% owner occupied.
Okay. We'll put it in our CC&Rs, and we'll restrict the parking. Okay? We want to be good neighbors here. We want to be good developers. And we appreciate everything you guys do and the comments you have, and, we hear you. And once they're done, I'll send each one of you a copy of them. How's that? Thank you. Unless there are any other questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. This is a public hearing. There's no one signed up to speak in favor. In opposition, Mr. Yanachek. Bob?
Thank you. I was here in 2016 when they rezoned it for the original project. I'm not a big fan of this property being residential. I'm more in line. I think it'd be more economically sound for it to be commercial, but we're beyond that point now. I have concerns, same as everyone, with parking. Being a police officer, on a busy night, officers don't have time to go in there and sort out who's supposed to be there. If it's blocked, it's blocked, and that takes guys away from patrol. I have a big concern, like Mr. Carr says, this turned into almost all rental property. It's not the best location. If you're familiar with there, the entranceway is going to be the Super 8 Motel. If you're familiar with that area, behind the food line, and what you can't see on there, which I'm not sure they talked about it, right where the H is, I walk dogs out there a good time, it's the police firing range. So when they have practice, it sounds like they're in your backyard shooting guns. It's just the nature of the beast, but I'm not sure how well received that will be for someone spending $400,000. Anytime they have night qualification or SWAT training, they hear automatic gunfire and flashbangs. So, like I said, I'm along with you guys. I think if they reduce the number of units, increase some parking to get, yeah, they could say they won't allow on-street parking, but once it's done, it's done. So I suggest a little more parking, reduce a unit or two, and then maybe that'd be fine. Thanks.
Thank you, Bob. I've ridden out to that site, which I try to do for every site, and that has been a huge homeless camp for years. And I'll have to say I think that would be a good use for that land.
I totally agreed that the location and the use is right. And I'm willing to take the developer's word to what he states. I can assure you I will remember it if he comes back here while I'm on here again. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. There being no other speakers, I'll now close the public hearing and move to take action.
I'll even be glad to make the motion. Motion to adopt resolution approving land development plan compliant.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second, please?
Second.
Okay, a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by raising your hand, please. For those opposed? Okay. There's it's a multi-purpose, a multi-step, so there's another motion.
Yeah. Motion to adopt ordinance amending code, section 1-2-1, official zoning map.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by raising your hand, please. Okay, motion carries. And then
Motion to adopt ordinance amending code section 1-3-1, zoning district established.
I'll second.
okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by raising your hand, please. Thank you very much. Motion carries. Thank you so much.
Hey, where you going?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Joe. It's the annexation of 17 acres.
Okay.
Union.
That'll be.
The City Council is requested to consider annexation of 17.80 acres located off Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. The property is currently owned by Union Academy Foundation. They're requesting annex into the city of Monroe. This project was considered by the plan board and unanimously recommended approval. And this is only for annexation. They already have the zoning in place that they want to. The project, property can be used for the ball fields for UA, and so there's no rezoning associated with this. It's only annexation. Staff and plan board do recommend approval, and I'll be glad to answer any questions if you have any at this time.
Any questions for Doug? Okay, this is a public hearing that no one has signed up in favor or in opposition, so I'll now close the public hearing and move to take action.
Motion that,
Go ahead.
go ahead.
You got it.
Motion that petition met the requirements of North Carolina General Statute 168-31.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by raising your hand, please. Thank you.
Motion to adopt ordinance extending the corporate limits.
I'll second.
Motion and second. All in favor, raise your hand, please. Thank you very much. Okay, that is all the public hearings in. I will now recognize interims. Okay. Let's call a 10-minute recess, and we'll come back at 7:21 if that's good with everybody. Okay, folks, thank you. At 7:21, we'll reconvene the meeting, and I'll turn it over now to Interim City Manager Brian Bourne, who will present the consent agenda.
Thank you, Mayor. The City Council uses the consent agenda to consider items that are non-controversial and routine. The consent agenda is acted upon by one motion and vote of the council. The consent agenda contains the following items. Item 9 is a request to honor retiring police officer Ricky Leonard Killian by awarding him his service sidearm in appreciation for his service to the city of Monroe. Item 10 are a few budget amendments. A is the fire department donation. This is to accept a donation in the amount of $600 from the Union County Fire Chiefs Association to support the fire department's fire camp 1872 and approve a budget amendment allocating these funds to the fire department. Item B is to accept a donation in the amount of $250 from Councilmember Julie Thompson to support the Monroe Police Explorer Program and approve a budget amendment allocating these funds to the Monroe Explorer Program. Item C is to accept reimbursement from Drug Enforcement Administration in the amount of $2,629 for overtime pay for officers working special task forces and request a budget amendment to designate and appropriate funds to the overtime budget for the police department. Item D is request a budget amendment in the amount of $110,000 from general fund unassigned balance for the purchase of police vehicles for fiscal year 2022. The purchase price of the vehicles and equipment has increased dramatically due to market conditions. Item 11, budget ordinances. A, we have a request to adopt a capital budget ordinance transferring $31,295 from Project Emergency Traffic Signal Project to Project Medic 4 Replacement Project for the additional emergency equipment needed to place the vehicle in service. B is a request to consider a budget ordinance to amend funding of specific projects in the Special Revenue Fund Project Ordinance for the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021. The budget ordinance serves to reallocate funding for the other previously approved projects, obligate funding for certain projects, as well as recognize investment earnings in the project fund. Item 12, we request a call for a public hearing on the fiscal year 23 budget to be held on June 14th, 2022 at 6 p.m. B, we request to call a public hearing on June 14th, 2022 to consider a revised water and sewer development agreement with the new developer of Cottage Green 2 subdivision. Item 13 is a request of City Council approve the 2-year lease agreement for Hertz to provide a booth in the terminal lobby and authorize the interim city manager to sign the lease agreement. 14 is a request approval of the attached budget amendment in the amount of $200,000 for legal fees for fiscal year 2022, and also authorize the interim city manager to execute any and all documents for legal services with Parner Sproul LLP and Moore and Van Allen PLLC in amounts not to exceed $250,000 each. 15 is a request to consider a contract award to KRG Utility, Inc. to replace an aging water main on Miller Street in the amount of $615,128 and authorize the interim city manager to execute all necessary documents. Item 16 is to request approval of the contract with Monroe Union County Community Development Corporation for mortgage and foreclosure assistance in the amount not to exceed $350,000 and authorize the interim city manager to execute any and all documents. 17, ordinances. A, request City Council adopt ordinance to adopt the fiscal year 2023 fee schedule and be made effective July 1, 2022. B is request to consider an ordinance to temporarily close certain state-maintained roads for 2 City of Monroe special events, those being the July 4th celebration and the 2022 Christmas tree lighting on Saturday, December 3rd, 2022. 18 is the budget, and budget message has been delivered to council, and with mayoral approval, the budget message for fiscal year 23 has been accepted into the public record as if it had been read in its entirety. 19, request to approve the tax releases for the month of March 2022 in the amount of $54.56. These releases were created by a change or reduction in value for the City of Monroe by the Union County Tax Assessor. Union County Commissioners have previously approved these releases. They are now before City Council for approval as well. Item 20 is request approval of the agreement with Union Anson County Habitat for Humanity for urgent repair program funding in an amount not to exceed $350,000 and authorize the interim city manager to execute any and all required documents. Item 21 is request City Council award the bids for the purchase of water and wastewater chemicals for fiscal year beginning July 1, 2022 and ending July 30th, 2023. That concludes the consent agenda items.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by raising your hand, please. Motion. Next, I'll recognize Mayor Pro Tem Gary Anderson, who will present the Citizens Appointment Committee recommendations.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Citizens Appointment Committee met on March 7th, 2022, and recommends that council make the following appointments. To the Charlotte Monroe Executive Airport Commission, appoint Howard Hedda to full term to replace Ken Hagler. For the Monroe Tourism Development Authority, appoint Pat Kale to Vice Chair to replace Sheila Crunkleton. For the Monroe Union County Economic Development Board of Advisors, appoint Mary DeStefan to full term to replace Todd Johnson. for the Public Safety Committee, appoint Hayden Desio Munn to full term to replace Gary Anderson, who was previously serving in a citizen capacity instead of a mayor-appointed capacity. To Public Safety, to appoint Charles Perry to a full term to replace Robert Jones. The Citizens Appointment Committee recommends that the mayor appoint the following. For the Monroe Housing Authority, appoint James Vinson to full term as a regular member. And this concludes the recommendations from the Citizens Appointment Committee.
Thank you, Gary. Do we have a motion to approve the recommendations?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? All in favor, signify by raising your hand. Motion carries, then. At this time, I'll also recognize interim city manager Brian Bourne, who will present informational items that won't require any action on behalf of council.
All right, thank you, Mayor.
The mayor, she says you need to make a motion on your.
That's right. You need to make a motion.
I'm sorry, thank you. I move to appoint James Vinson to a full term as a regular member to the Monroe Housing Authority.
I second it.
There's no vote really required for that.
Does that need a second?
Is it?
No, it's just that the mayor's announcing,
Yeah. So,
announcing his
sorry for that
appointment.
oversight. I'm sorry.
Okay. I'll take the floor.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. Item 23, we have items A through E are various committee and board minutes and reports. Item 24, we have disbursement of city council discretionary funds to the American Red Cross in the amount of $500 by Councilmember James Carr. B, we have disbursement of city council discretionary funds to Central Academy of Technology and Arts in the amount of $250 by Mayor Pro Tem Gary Anderson. Item 25, we have financial reports for March of 2022. We have an unassigned general fund balance of $65,571, and an assigned general fund balance of $2,751,654. 26, we have a summary of contracts awarded. Contracts and change orders awarded for the month of April 2022 total $155,952.30, and there are no settlement claims to report. That concludes the informational items.
Okay. That being said, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor, signify by raising your hand. Thank you very much, and thank you, yes, for attending. Appreciate it.
Peter, is that your phone? We've got a gap, we got a way to smash it up here if you like.
It's all right. I mean, at first, that was my take, but the more questions got.
Pete, you got the sound off.
Information we got, so. I didn't either.
That's the first I've ever heard.
Me either. So that was a learning curve for me, as well as the fact that,